Episode number 4 of Inside the Parlor. I'm Corey Santisteban coming at you from my garage. Hey, speaking about the garage, at about the 20-minute mark, the heater's going to kick on. It's going to get super loud. I hope it's not too distracting. Disclaimer over. Today I'll be joined by one of my mentors from the hair industry, Richard Britton. After sustaining a massive injury in his previous career, Richard jumped into the hair industry and fell in love with it. Working behind the chair gave him a nice understanding of the industry, which led him to presenting at hair shows and teaching in beauty schools and salons. His heart to inspire and build relationships with others brought him to create the podcast show Shearstar, where he and some of the talents of our industry get to talk shop, giving loads of stories, explaining the how and why behind their success. Richard commits his all to everything he does. And whether or not you're in the hair industry, I really believe that you'll glean a good word from his stories that he has to share. Welcome to Inside the Parlor. Hey, Richard, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Cool. Welcome to the parlor.
Thank you, brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Come on in, grab a seat. A little bit of time since we've seen each other. I remember the first time meeting you. I was a student at SFIC, Palm Beach School in San Francisco, and seeing you and Daniel Moses and a bunch of the other guys, Jay-Z coming through and Robin, and seeing all you guys come in as a League of Extraordinary. I think it was gentlemen still at that time, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember you guys just came in there, just had that solid male presence, and beauty school, there's not a ton of those dudes there, so I just remember seeing you guys and just like had my attention, just like I was like, I need to be a part of this, and just being so like just kind of enraptured by your guys' presentating skills, and just it was so cool just to be able to see you guys do that, and then us being able to work together on stage. You kind of fast forward a little bit, and being able to do stage work with you, and I'm looking at myself like I don't know what I'm doing, but then seeing the professionalism that you brought, you were always really encouraging, and just was always just awesome to be around.
Oh, thank you, man. Well, it's funny, I remember you from that first class. I remember you being there, and I think you were one of our models. Yeah. And then I remember coming back to the school and watching you get started working there, becoming instructor, and you always stood out. And I think that in this industry, like attracts like, and so you end up surrounding yourself with these great people that are thinking about new ways, new ideas, new exciting things, and here you are now filming your own show.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to watch the show, so thanks for having me. This is cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's cool. Bringing the sides shorter, preserving the length on top is the route we're going with Richard's hair today. Using scissor over comb, I'll bring Richard's sides down shorter without exposing too much scalp, then point cutting the top to remove length while creating some texture. We'll use a paste that's a little bit on the drier side, then bam, Paul Walker meets George Clooney. Awesome, Richard. So you've been keeping pretty busy, man. It's been cool watching you on social media, jumping off and doing your thing with your Shearstar program. How's that been? How's that been going?
It's been a journey, and it's important, I think, to try and slow myself down sometimes and think about just trying to enjoy the process, because I know someday I'm going to look back. I feel like as long as I don't give up, as long as I don't stop, it's going to be successful. Yeah. But anytime you have a project and you put it out there to the world, I think you're creating something that's yours. You feel weird about it, and there's times that you're like, what am I doing? Should I really even be doing this? And so I have to remember not to quit, not to give up. But it's been a ride, and I've gone from having 0 listeners. Now every time I look, the countries jump 5 to 10 countries.
Oh, awesome.
Some of these countries I've never even heard of. So I've got people listening to us in 60 to 70 countries now. We're just over 10,000 downloads. We've got, it's been a ride, man, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, awesome. So give me a run through of if you were to run into someone, and maybe it's even potential guests, how do you present the show to someone to let them know, for someone who hasn't heard of Shearstar?
Yeah, well, basically, the inspiration for me was really the opportunities that I had in the industry to work around people. I used to ask for opportunity all the time, and I would go sleep on floors, I would sweep stages, I would get coffee, I would do whatever I could to help educators meet them and try and collaborate, or eventually get the opportunity to work with them. Mm-hmm. And along the way, they would share these are great storytellers, and they would tell me these amazing stories or giving me these pointers, and I would try and go repeat them to people, and I just kind of decided that it would probably be more, it would be awesome to record their stories in their own words. And Vivian McKinder had a series when I was in school called I'm Not Just a Hairdresser, in documentaries, and listening to her, listening to Win Clayball with Masters, listening to Robert Cromines with belief system and his CDs.
Yeah.
It kind of was something where people were dreaming about doing hair and creating collections, and I was dreaming about like creating content. And so I started looking at different content, and just the inspiration hit me. It's like, I love stories, you know, Native Americans. I mean, that was like the whole thing, is we learn best through people's stories. And when I was a student, I wanted to know how people got to where they're at, and I thought maybe other students would too. So I created the show, and I'm just, you know, it's something I feel like is beneficial, and I'm just going to put it out in the world. And, you know, if people like it, great. If they hate it, then then I'll just go sit in my room and cry.
Right, totally. You're having fun and you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
At the very least, right?
I listen to some of the episodes 2 or 3 times, and I need to hear them over and over again. I've learned so much during the interviews, and I thought that I already knew these people, but these are people I've worked with for a few years, and the things that come out, or the ahas that they have on the show,
Right.
it takes it to a whole nother level for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, how long have you been a hairdresser?
So I've been doing hair for about 8 years now.
Okay. And what got you into wanting to do that? Because I mean, you changed up careers to get into this industry.
Yeah, dude, I was a manly man. I was a lineman for AT&T. I mean, never would have thought I'd be doing hair. I mean, kind of like, you know, I love your story too. I mean, the things that you've done. But I literally fell into the industry in 2003. Came off a pole during a storm, and I was told I would never work again. And I just got really depressed about that. Spent a couple years trying to find myself. Got into motorcycles. Thought I would start building motorcycles. I mean, I started playing poker. Thought I was gonna get into building poker tables.
Sure.
I just wanted to work with my hands, and I love craftsmanship. I love tools. And then I just remembering the barbershop, remembering being in the barbershop, the experience, the culture, and I thought, you know what, maybe that's what I should be doing. And so I looked into it. My wife had this idea that we could go to school together, and then she decided it wasn't for her. So I just carried on with it, and it gave me another life, man. I mean, it renewed. I went from thinking I was never going to work again, being disabled at home, to just last year finally being told that I was no longer disabled, and that was powerful for me.
Right on, man. I imagine that's kind of like being able-bodied and being able to get around, and kind of almost taking that for granted. When someone tells you, hey, you're not gonna be able to move around like you used to.
Right.
It's got to set you back, and it's almost got to be kind of that slap, almost like that slap of like, what, really?
Yeah.
That's true. What are kind of some of the things that helped you get through that? Because I mean, you had to go through rehab and stuff like that to kind of get back to that spot to be able to do the things you even close to what you used to do.
Yeah.
So what did that process look like?
Well, I think everything that happens, I think we get shaped over time by our experiences. And what I learned from everything I went through, falling and breaking my back to becoming a hairdresser, I realized that my job description had become my self-description. And I saw my worth, I saw my value in being a physical man that could climb a pole and fix things, and the money that I made and the uniforms that I wore, and that I felt like that had become my identity. So when I fell and had that all taken away from me, I mean, thank God that I found the beauty industry, because it allowed me to reinvent myself. And this industry is like, it's an industry that you can be who you are. You don't have to show up on a script. You don't have to, use these other company statements. It's like, it's totally branded around your image. And I think that's one of the best things about the beauty industry. So that's been my process. It's just being open, being authentic, and then, presenting to the world what you want to show them. So for me, it became podcasting, and I still do hair. I'm still doing hair 3 days a week.
Yeah.
I've done just about everything from owning a shop, being an educator, being behind the chair, every kind of, and then joining teams like the league, given those opportunities. I mean, taking those opportunities and just learning and growing, and and then collaborating with creative people like you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Because just as you mentioned, you've got to wear a lot of different hats, and that's the thing that's really cool about the hair industry, is you can do that. If you want to spend time all your years behind the chair, you absolutely can do that. If you wanted to get in doing platform work, you can do that, educating, and you got to work at one of the Paul Mitchell schools, right?
Yeah, I actually went. So my goal. This is the first time I'm sharing this. So the way that I looked at it was education is everything. I wanted more education, so I spent I put $20,000 down to go to the best school that I could find. That was the closest to me. I paid cash to go to school, and then because of my accident, so I went and reinvented myself. At the time, though, we had really we were during it was a very difficult financial time. So literally, I had no time. I had to get into school, take that year off from not making any money, and I had to get out and I had to make it happen. So I ended up going back to the school. My goal was to work there until I made $20,000 at the school, so I could basically get my education paid for.
Yeah.
Working at the school introduced me to the opportunity to work for the company, and I became an educator, and that gave me more education. And financially, that has been a big part of my financial, what I've done well with, not only having behind the chair, but also having revenue coming in from teaching classes and traveling and getting to have some adventure.
And just kind of like with looking at that, I mean, you've seen people who've never picked up a pair of scissors probably before, and you've gotten to see them kind of harness their skills, and then you've been around people who have been in the industry for years. Like, what do you see that? Because I mean, the discipline level changes, and it's just kind of like, and it can be a lot of different things, from upbringing to just kind of different habits that they've made for themselves. But what are some of those hardcore disciplines that you've seen that are just like, man, you do these and you're going to be successful, however that may look to you, from this little recipe right here?
Well, I think, texture work and styling hair is the most important thing to train your hands. I've never seen anybody come into this industry and not technically improve their cut and colors. I feel like that's a lot of muscle memory. But learning how to style and work hair with just a brush, with just one product. I mean, we have so many tools, so many products, so many gadgets. I always try and take it back to, one comb, one scissor, one brush, and then, how can I style that hair using the foundations? So I feel like the art of shaping hair, manipulating with your hands, is a discipline that just needs total attention if you really want to be great in this industry. And also, too, the humble attitude, because I still, even as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, man, I still have so much work to do, and I'm continuously just in awe of some of these people I see just coming out of beauty school, and what their hands can already do. I think some of that's just God-given, like they just were born to do stuff like this.
Yeah, no, it's that's definitely true, and seeing that, it's almost kind of you gotta allow yourself not to get discouraged by looking at what other people are doing. And
that can crush you.
Yeah, where it's like you're looking like, wait a second, we started at the same time. Why is this person? I mean, I remember going to beauty school with my wife, and she's got an amazing set of hair, a lot of hair on her head, and just seeing like she was able to manipulate and just do things that I couldn't even dream of, and I'm like, what the heck? And just kind of feeling that discouragement, but knowing like, hey, look, this is someone that I can chat with and kind of learn from, and us not being afraid to do that. And not just so looking at everybody as like their competition.
That's huge with me too. Everybody could, one of the things that I did really well early on was I looked at everybody around me and I looked at what they were good at, and I went and I followed them, and I stood. I mean, so it didn't matter that I was 30 something years old and a 19-year-old girl was teaching me how to foil, or a 20-year-old girl was teaching me how to braid hair. Like, I just wanted to learn. And I think that's the best thing about our industry, because what other industry has such a sharing mentality? Like, this is what we do at shows. We go and they show you their playbook. I mean, people like Takashi will take you into a class and show you how he cuts hair, and he'll walk you through it in slow motion and have you practice it over and over until you get it. I mean, most industries are trying to keep their secrets and trying to be, greedy, whereas the beauty industry, I mean, what better industry? It's all sharing. It's sharing great knowledge and practices, trying to help each other succeed. And
absolutely. What are really those disciplines that you've kind of changed over the years that have gotten you to get where you're at right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, it's constant, never-ending improvement. It's really self-mastery leads to mastery in everything. Look at Vidal Sassoon. He was really big about taking care of his body and nutrition and yoga.
80-something years old, still stretching out
just healthy. And so for me, it's the same thing. It's a process. Like, I never, used to like getting up super early, and now I enjoy it. And I never have stopped studying and trying to improve myself. And that's mostly been out of the industry. Nowadays, people are coming forth and recognizing that the beauty industry needs this as well. So, following the Tony Robbins, I didn't grow up wealthy, and I knew that education was important. So
Right.
I didn't really care for school as much as I loved education. I continue to love education. So I read a lot. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I'm constantly looking at how I can improve, not just as a hairdresser, but just as a human being. So I focus on, I work a lot harder on myself than I do at my craft. And in that process, my craft gets time and attention, and throughout, everything improves. And then the flip side of that is you gotta forgive yourself and not be so hard on yourself, because it doesn't happen overnight. It's never gonna be that one big event that shapes or makes your career. It really is those little things that you do daily to move that needle forward, to keep growing that vision. And it takes a lot of grit to stick it out. A lot of people start up and it sounds great and then they quit. And that's why I'm pushing you, because everybody thinks it's the idea, and ideas come and go.
Right.
It's the execution, man. The execution is everything.
Absolutely.
You got to commit saying, I'm going to do this for 1 to 2 years, and I'm going to reassess and see where it goes, and then I'll decide if I'm going to quit. But don't let yourself quit along that process. Just stay with it.
Right.
It could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 3 years. I committed to podcasting for 1 year and seeing what I can do in a year, and it's been 7 months, and it's definitely taking on its own life.
Yeah. Awesome. What are kind of some of the things that you think that, as we look back into the history of hairdressing, what are kind of some of those things that you think that we've kind of stepped away from and have allowed to kind of maybe get in the way to make it not as effective as maybe it used to be, or vice versa? What are some of those things that you see that we're doing now that we definitely have grown and been able to do so much better from back in the day?
That's a great question, and I think what I'm going to say might be a little controversial. It's something that I'm struggling with right now, and it's really that need. It's the business side. It's the as much as I'm a student of this and I'm trying to master it myself, there is amount of sacrifice of the quality of the craftsmanship, the quality of the time spent with people, in the interest of producing and being efficient, and calculating your hourly rate and trying to make your day as efficient and profitable as possible. Whereas I feel like in the past it was really about the craft, the craftsmanship, taking your time. I don't always get to take the amount of time that I wish I had, and you can never. It's a double-edged sword, because you can never predict how long something's going to take. Right. You just have a generalized feeling, and so I have a family to support, a family to feed, and bills to pay.
Absolutely.
I'm not knocking anybody that maximizes their productivity per hour rate, but you can kind of lose yourself on that fine line of chasing a number instead of chasing, the respect, the fact that people let you touch their hair, let you shape how they feel about themselves. It deserves a huge amount of respect.
Yeah, totally.
And I feel like that's what we're losing.
Got it.
Well, tell me, I know this may be off of topic, but how did you conceive of this show? Like, what makes you want to do this?
You know what? I just love conversating with people and just really connecting. It's something that we do every day behind the chair.
Right.
We're doing that, and to just be able to capture stories and capture people's. I think about the people's their good steps and the kind of like their missteps.
Right.
When you think about Shearstar, and it's like to be able to help and kind of influence. Hopefully we're having people who aren't just hairdressers listening to you and feeling inspired and just being able to really be like, this is encouraging me to get into what I want to do.
Right.
And what I feel called to do. And it's one of those things of just really wanting to inspire, and how do you do that, and how do you meet kind of people where they're at.
Right.
And kind of help them to build skills, whether it be technical skills, or whether it be, I never thought about asking somebody that during a consultation. It's
right on.
Yeah, whatever kind of hopefully that motivation and that encouragement is kind of the heart of what I was thinking about when this idea kind of formed up. And there's a ton of ideas you can have. You can be like, oh, that's a stupid idea. And you're like, no, that's actually kind of not a bad idea. Let's just take that and see what's gonna happen with that.
I always felt like I had to know people's backstory to understand their work. You know what I mean? Like I needed to understand their story. It's legit, bro.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Cool, right there. I'm just gonna dust you off just a little bit.
Paul
more.
Walker meets Doris Day.
Right on. But no, that's a journey, and just kind of really getting out there and not being afraid to make mistakes. Because I mean, the successful people of our time have just they haven't been afraid to get out there and to make mistakes.
Yeah, they failed lots and lots of times. So
yeah, no, totally. That's cool. What are kind of some of the hopes and the dreams that you feel like as far as like what your legacy and what you can leave your family with, and what you can leave friends with? What's some of those things that are like, man, I hope that when I'm 80 years old, hopefully this isn't being as limber as
yeah,
but
absolutely.
also too, but what are kind of some of those things that you hope you leave?
For me, my biggest inspiration, I think I have to go back and say Oprah Winfrey. If I can get to the point where my career becomes a representation of who I authentically am.
Yeah.
Somebody who wants people to see the best in themselves, who wants to lift people up, who wants to tell stories. I guess I could just say I want to be the Oprah Winfrey of our industry.
Yeah, that's right on.
I'd be good with that, because there's a woman who, against all odds, against all adversity, against people telling her that she shouldn't do this or she shouldn't do that, or she's not the look, she's not the typical person, she went her own way, and she was true to herself, and now she is who she is, and that's what she did. That's who I want to be, man.
Yeah.
That's who I want to be.
Right on. Well, cool. Richard, it's been such a pleasure being able to just chat and do some hair, and appreciate you coming through, man. So kind of going forward, how can people follow you on Instagram, on Facebook, in the podcast? Where are those links that people can follow you at?
I always ask people this, so this is fun to do for me. So Shearstar is currently being streamed through Facebook. It's always going to be 100% free.
Yeah.
We are currently on iTunes. We're one of the top rated podcasts in the health and beauty section on iTunes. We are going to be going with Google. Google is currently going to be launching podcasting on their platform, which is going to be awesome. So we're already registered to go. But we're currently also on Stitcher Radio. And then you can always contact me at richbritton@msn.com or on my personal Facebook page.
Yeah, awesome. Such a pleasure, man. Thank you for coming through.
Rock, brother.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed your time inside the parlor. You can subscribe and hit the like button on YouTube, or you can go ahead and leave a generous amount of stars and a review if you're listening to the podcast. We can connect on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Inside the Parlor. More content and appointment for hair services can be found at InsideTheParlor.com. Thank you so much for tuning in.